Testing, testing. This is Stefano from Vox Podcast. I start this podcast today. This is the first episode, so cope with me when it comes to audio quality, because at the moment I'm only using my laptop and I have a fan blowing at me, and I also have my coffee cup and my soda water, testing whether the audio will be sufficiently good to run a podcast. I start with the name Vox, which is a brand that I have registered in 2009. So if you're thinking how original, because there is already a Vox Media. Vox Media has been incorporated in 2011 and Vox Singapore was incorporated in 2009. So technically speaking, I was ahead of Vox. Vox means voice in Italian language, which is actually not in Italian language, in Latin language, but Italian is my mother tongue. And so Vox means voice, and voice is the voice of the entrepreneurs that I would like to bring to this podcast. I've been involved in entrepreneurship since I was very young, since I was 16. I'm turning 42 this year, so 26 years ago. Started many companies, lived in Italy, lived in Middle East, and lived in Africa, and started business all over these regions. But most importantly, I spent majority of my adult lifetime in Singapore, where I have incorporated business as well. Also worked in Indonesia and Hong Kong, so I have experience and exposure throughout Europe, not much honestly, and then a bit of Africa, East Africa to be precise. The Middle East, and then certainly Southeast Asia. So I want to bring to this podcast the voice of those that have started the enterprise, and specifically at this point in time, I'm quite interested into startups. Last year, I founded a startup. We attracted investment and we went into the fintech, but again, this is not about me. It's about the startups that I would like to interview. So as I record this first episode, which is a sort of a test run or a episode 0, we have 2 startups lined up for this week. I will have a co-host running the podcast together with me, which is Diane Ha, which is a Malaysian citizen living in Kenya, working with startups for quite a while, and she will do her own introductions, perhaps during episode 1, which would be probably the interview or maybe a prequel to the first interview. So for the time being, I'm recording this through my Zoom and will upload this one on Podbean, where I have a URL registered as vox8.podbean.com. And I will probably add this one to YouTube as well. Haven't planned yet how, in terms of joining it to the existing Vox channel that I have, or if I should do a separate YouTube channel. But this is just the episode 1, just to get started. In other words, it's like when a developer starts coding, it would make a Hello World application. This is my Hello World episode. So for now, I'll call it a day. I'll stop with this episode just to test all the connections in Podbean, where it works, and then also the audio, most importantly. So thank you for listening.